out today. Keith is the managing attorney for the Ithaca Law New York office, and I will let you go.
Thanks, Jake. Welcome, everybody. Glad you're here today, either in person or later on video. I have a little PowerPoint that I'll share with folks. Legal Assistants of Western New York, we're a private, not-for-profit law firm, so we're a not-for-profit agency. We're not a government agency. Often people think we are a government agency. About 97–98% of our funding comes from various government sources, and that's a combination of federal funding, New York State funding, we get some money from the county, we get some money from the city of Ithaca, and then we also get money from foundations and charities like the United Way, the Park Foundation, and other foundations. We have 7 offices that cover a 14-county area. The area starts in Rochester, goes south through Geneva, comes to Ithaca, goes to Elmira, and then goes across the southern tier. We have offices in Bath and Olean and Jamestown as well. We have a staff of nearly 200 people spread out over that agency, all of those 7 offices, which makes us one of the biggest law firms actually in Western New York and the Finger Lakes. We used to be sort of siloed, that each office just covered the 1 or 2 counties where it's centered, and the staff there focused on that. We've, over the several years now, tried to really become more of a regional law firm so that we may have a specialist in health law in the Rochester office that's serving some of our clients in Ithaca, and other examples of that I could give you. But the office here in Ithaca, we have 25 folks on staff, combination of attorneys, paralegals, and support staff. Let me scroll down here. So that's sort of about us. Just give you a second to look at that. In the past year, 2024, our statistics show that we provided legal services to 750 households in Tompkins County. Of those 750 cases that we handled, 403 of those cases were for folks who were threatened with the loss of housing, either a threatened eviction or a threatened foreclosure, or some other threat that might make them unable to keep their current housing situation. So you can see with the rising cost of rent in the area and the difficulties with affordable housing, it's become a bigger and bigger part of our business. We have currently 5 lawyers who are just handling eviction prevention work, 4 paralegals assisting them. We're adding a 6th lawyer later this summer. So anyone who calls us and says that they're threatened with the loss of housing, we will do an intake if they're otherwise eligible, and I'll get into that in a second. But we'll do an intake, try to at least give them some direction, some advice, some referrals to other agencies that may be able to help depending on their situation. And then if there's legal work that we can do to help prevent the eviction or help them transition to alternative housing, we'll do that too. All right, so housing, I just mentioned, is one of our services. Our biggest service, like I said, is about 60% of the work that we're doing. We also handle public benefits cases. So that would be folks who are dealing with the Department of Social Services around public assistance or SNAP, which used to be food stamps, or Medicaid issues. Also issues related to unemployment insurance benefits. And we're starting to see an increase in folks calling us about those types of issues. Folks have lost their job, been laid off, been applied for unemployment benefits and have been denied. And then what we'll do is assist them with the hearing process and represent them at a hearing for unemployment benefits if it appears that their case has legal merit. Disability, which is another government benefit program, we assist people who've been denied Social Security disability or SSI, which is supplemental security income. and help them with the appeal process. So generally, folks will apply, allege they have a disability, get denied by Social Security. They can request a reconsideration of that decision, and then if they're denied again, then they can ask for a hearing before an administrative law judge. And that's typically where we'll pick up the case and represent the folks at their administrative law judge hearing. Those hearings are typically held not in person anymore. They're typically held by a video conference, and so we'll prepare the client, we'll help gather all the medical evidence, submit it to Social Security, and make the legal arguments in support of the claim. Family law, we have some funding to do domestic violence work. Our domestic violence attorney left Law New York last fall, and we have not been able to find a replacement yet. We've interviewed a few candidates, but haven't found the right person yet. But when we get that person back on staff or have that position filled, we'll be assisting people with family law issues related to domestic violence. Typically helping somebody get an order of protection or enforce an order of protection, or perhaps deal with visitation or custody issues that are related to the domestic violence situation. We also have a pro se or a pro bono program where we assist people who want to get a divorce and they're not contesting it with their spouse or soon-to-be ex-spouse. They've worked out the issues of custody and visitation and child support and family court, if there are those issues. They have worked out any property disposition or that they need to, or don't have any property they need to split up, and are just looking to get a divorce. And so what we would do is we have them come in, meet with the attorney who helps them get the paperwork started for the divorce, and then they come back later once the papers are all filed and help them finalize the divorce later. We have a reentry legal services project. This is a project for folks who typically were incarcerated at some point in the past and have now had a clean record for usually most of our clients over 10 years, but that old conviction on their record is still interfering with their ability to get a job or to get a license to do a type of work. So it might be somebody who's working for the public school system, and as part of a job they get in that system, there's a criminal record check done and it shows the old conviction, and then the State Department of Education says, school district, you can't put this person in that position, you can't hire them for that position. They lose that opportunity. We'll help them try to get that record sealed if they're eligible for it, or get the Department of Education to overturn that decision to get them the licensing or the permission they need to get that job. There's a new law in New York that just took effect last fall called the Clean Slate Act. That's going to help a lot of people get their record sealed. It's really not going to come into full effect for a couple more years, but as it does, we're working with folks around the state, advocates around the state on that to make sure that the people who are eligible for sealing of their records get those records sealed. We also handle some cases under this reentry program for folks who are discriminated against as a result of their criminal record. So folks shouldn't be denied a job because they have a criminal record unless that record somehow has some correlation to the work they're going to be doing. Like somebody robs a bank, they apply for a job as a bank teller, they're not going to get that job. Somebody has a drug conviction from years ago and is applying for a bank teller position, maybe they are eligible for that job and shouldn't be denied. And then elder law is the other area on here. We have a contract with the Office of the Aging here in Tompkins County, and they refer folks to us for help with wills, power of attorney, health care proxies, and sometimes some other legal issues maybe related to Medicare, Medicaid. We have a couple of new projects that we're working on. The unemployment benefits project I already mentioned. That's an area we had done in the past, and then after the pandemic, claims for that kind of stopped getting calls, so we kind of slowed that program down, but we're starting to get calls again, so we've revived that. And then we have a name change project that we just started. So if folks are trying to get their name changed or change the gender markers and need help with that process, we've got staff who can help with that. In addition to our local projects, regional projects, as I mentioned earlier, health law is one of them. We have staff in our Rochester office who help with health law issues, and we connect them from here in Ithaca to the folks in Rochester. And they can help with Medicaid, Medicare, manage long-term care, and some home health issues, like getting personal care aides or home health aides in place. We also have a regional consumer law project that can help with a variety of issues that are mentioned here. And we do the same thing, calls coming to the Ithaca office, we connect the folks with our Rochester office. Student loans are one of the issues that we can help folks with under that program. All right, financial eligibility for our services. So, the general rule is that folks who are under, or households that are under 200% of the federal poverty level are eligible for our services. And that in 2025 is $53,300 per year for a household of 3. So it varies based on household size. But that's the general sort of guideline, and that guideline is set for us by the federal government, by the Legal Services Corporation, which funds offices like ours all across all countries. So every county and every state is covered by at least one legal aid organization like ours that is subject to these financial eligibility guidelines. So we have that federal funding that's sort of the basis of our funding, but we have local funding that enables us to go over those financial eligibility limits. So eviction prevention is a good example here. In New York State gives us funding to do eviction prevention work. And that program, we can serve people up to 80% of area median income. So for a household of 3, that's almost $80,000 a year. So you can see it's significantly more than the federal limit set on us. So the state being a little more generous in terms of eligibility, because this funding comes to us from the State Office of Temporary and Disability Assistance, which runs the DSS programs around the state. And they recognize that preventing an eviction, preventing homelessness, saves the state a lot of money. So they're giving money to us for law offices like ours around the state to do the legal work on those cases, to try to help prevent evictions, or at least enable people to transition to alternative housing without winding up homeless in between their eviction and a new place to live. In addition to financial eligibility, we have a citizenship eligibility requirement. U.S. citizens are eligible. Non-citizens are eligible, but only in limited circumstances. So generally, the non-citizen person who's seeking our assistance needs to have a legal status, legal immigration status to be in the U.S. So typically, somebody who has a green card would be eligible. There are a whole long list of various categories of people who may be eligible, but we have to review their immigration status and look at their immigration paperwork to make an eligibility determination. Because of this, we can't really do much with immigration legal work at this time, which is unfortunate because it's a very busy topic. Those are federal rules as well that prohibit us from serving those folks. So that's the presentation. We're on Tabor Street, right by the Cherry Arts Building. Folks can reach us by phone or by the internet. We have an online application process for folks who want to contact us that way. And that's what I have. So happy to take some questions. Yes.
Are you considering finding funding that would allow you to work with people who don't have a legal immigration status?
So we would love to. The problem is the federal government, with the funding we get from them, which is about 15% or 20% of our funding, specifically prohibits us from doing that, even if we find funding elsewhere. We can't use any money from any source to do immigration work for folks who are not within our citizenship guidelines. Yes?
Yeah, so I have a question. I've just wondered this. Do different Law New York offices in different parts of the states do different things, or does the Ithaca office generally offer all the services that any other Law New York office would offer?
Good question. So, we go through a priority setting process every 3 years where we survey our local clients, former clients, community agencies, to try to get a sense of what folks want in each locality in terms of legal help, and then try to match that with the various funding that we have for civil legal services. So typically the priorities are fairly closely aligned across all 14 counties. And so things like housing, government benefits, domestic violence, those are all issues that pretty much affect everybody, but or every part of our community. There are grants that we get sometimes that are targeted towards a specific population, like we have an HIV grant in Rochester that could serve folks who had that diagnosis, and so it's a special population. So sometimes we'll get a special population grant or a special issue grant like serving veterans or something like that, that maybe makes a slight change on it, but for the most part, people across the 14 counties have the same services available.
If you were to get a grant for a special issue, how would we find out about that if we had people or clients that could benefit?
So we would typically do outreach, so we certainly put it on our website. We would have folks in the office doing outreach presentations at organizations and at events like this. That name change program I mentioned, we didn't get a specific grant for it, but it's a new initiative that our office decided we had the capacity to undertake, so we're just starting to get the word out about that. But that's the future we'll try to do. Yes?
I'm sorry, my English is very poor. Try please understand me. So my husband, he is disability. We got in April just only white car. You know, yeah, white car. So when I tried to get him disability, they refused him. Why? Because last year my earnings was little bit high. But I tried to get disability him. His disability, no me. But I'm wife. It's okay. So pension also refused him because he hasn't 10 years work experience. Again refused him. And I asked about social pension. They again refused him because we live together. I'm his wife, and we together have an account in the bank higher than $3,000. Why? I'm asking about him. He needs social pension, and I don't understand why.
Yeah. So it's I really can't try to answer a specific question about a specific person's legal problem here without a lot more information. But most of the government programs have a rule that when people are married, that one spouse has the obligation to support the other. So they will typically look at the household income, or at least both spouses' income and assets, in determining financial eligibility. But it sometimes depends on the program. So.
It's very good. I tell to them, if I will pass away, he will be homeless disability. It is better.
I agree. Yes.
Are there any residency restrictions that would relegate somebody to one office representative?
Each office has an area that they cover. So the Ithaca office covers Tompkins and Tioga counties, and the office in Geneva covers 5 counties around Geneva. So it's typically yes. So we will route people to the office that covers that service area. But some of our regional programs it doesn't. Yes, in the back.
All right. Do you have any lawyers that work with like child abuse or sexual child abuse?
No, we do not. Mostly because if folks are in family court on those issues and can't afford an attorney, the court will appoint somebody to represent them, and somebody else will be talking about that. Yes.
Where do you send people who you can't help for whatever the reason may be?
So you'll hear about some of the other programs here. 211 in this county is a fabulous resource. So So we will suggest folks contact 211. Sometimes if it's specific, we'll maybe know of a specific referral place, but we don't always know that. You know, I mentioned in our housing situation, our partnership with Cornell. Cornell has a couple other programs, like a veterans practice coming up, we can refer folks to. But, yeah, you'll hear about some of the other services in the community today.
Oh, actually, one more question.
Yes.
When we call the number, if there are, you do have specific questions, is there like a brief intake slash, I don't know, consultation, 5-minute thing where they could say yes or no, or direct somebody else?
Sure, so our receptionist's job is to sort of figure out during that brief conversation, do you have a legal problem that fits within the areas where we serve people? And if so, are you eligible based on your income and citizenship for us to do an intake? And if not, then we really don't have anyone on staff who has the knowledge to try to get into your questions, because people are pretty specialized. So we do that screening first, and then if we can do an intake, we will. And at the intake process is when we'll get into the details of that.
Do you have any translation services available for that intake process?
Yes, so we do. We have you know, a phone service that a lot of folks use now to translate in any language, and then we have folks on staff who speak Spanish as well. So, yes.
So coming back to the question that someone just asked about, so the receptionist does the screening for cases?
Initial screening to determine if somebody fits within the categories of assistance that I went through, and then if they're eligible for our services.
All right, thank you, Keith.